Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Booba Blabs. It has been a minute. Uh, it's been about 2 weeks since my last video, and a lot's changed. As you can see, I got a new mic. As you can see, I have a sword in the background. Uh, and I have some hair. I locked my hair, so we're officially dreaded. Okay. Um, I apologize for not making content. Honestly, if I'm being serious, I kind of didn't have an idea for a Booba Blab that I wanted to talk about, or at least one that I wanted to post. Not because ideas were running out or anything, but more because a lot of the ideas for content that I had been split into other things where I'm like, oh, this would be better as a TikTok, or this would be better as like a podcast, or this would be better as a YouTube video. Yeah, like a video essay, my bad. So, because of that, it's kind of like caused me to delay. And of course, laziness in life, the 2L combo right there, you know. Um, so I hope you all are doing well. I'm doing well. Life has been good. Everything's been good. Deltarune has come out today. For anybody knowing, my birthday is tomorrow. For anybody doing this might actually be uploaded tomorrow. So happy birthday to me, Big 21 type shit. Um, but yeah, it's been a lot. I would love to give a little bit of a recap or truly discuss everything, but I don't want to waste anybody's time. And today I wanted to actually talk about what a masterpiece might be. You see, I was actually creating a video essay before I made this, and I wanted to do something where it was something along the lines of you closing your eyes at this very moment and thinking about your favorite piece of media. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a song, it could be a TV show, it could be a movie, it could be a comic book, it could be anything, right? Any piece of media. Which one is your favorite? And I wanted to ask why it was your favorite and if it was a masterpiece. Those are two very important questions. Why and masterpiece. I might be dragging it a little bit there, but hear me out. The reason why I thought about that is actually me thinking about Deltarune. Uh, Many of you probably in real life who might have talked to me, or maybe not that many of you actually, know that I love Deltarune and Undertale. It's been something where I would say for this past year or two or so, I have truly enveloped myself in and really dipped my toes into the community. I know that many of you probably don't care, and that's okay. But I wanted to talk about it because, in my opinion, especially after playing Chapter 5 today and really like thinking about my thoughts, I think that Deltarune is my favorite game of all time. And I don't say that lightly. Uh, Many of you might actually know this, but I'm the type of person who has trouble ranking things. You know, I've always been under the belief that when it comes to a story, when it comes to anything, a movie or TV show, it's hard to place something at number one, even for favorites, you know? And it's not because something cannot be my favorite, but my brain has always been the brain that like thinks about the value thinks about the value of what I'm like consuming, you know? And of course, that can make me sound like a fucking, I don't even know, a chud. But there's a reason why I say that. And it's because I've been a part of a lot of communities that like to compare. And I've been around a lot of people that like to compare. Comparison, as we all know, is the thief of joy. Shout out to you, Josh. But the thing is that because of that comparison and because I've seen it so much, my brain has basically gone in a way where I'm like, I don't like comparing things because I can truly see the value in it. I think my storyteller brain plus my enjoyer audience brain and realizing all this have all culminated together in me having trouble ranking things. But there are sometimes those occasions where I do have ranking for things. And I put them that high because they not only mean something to me, but I place such value in what the creator has made and what that thing is in almost every atmosphere that it's almost one of a kind or incredibly special for the genre that it is in. Berserk is one of them. I love Berserk. But another one of those is Deltarune and Undertale specifically. More Deltarune if I'm arguing. Not because Undertale is like worse, but I think there's a lot of content in Deltarune, and I think by the time it's over, it will be amazing. Uh, it's already amazing, so I'll say amazing times two. Okay, maybe even amazing times three. Okay, who knows? That's a big number right there, but amazing times three is what it's looking like it's about to be. And because of that, when I've in my writing journey and in me, like, fully allowing myself to get into to like, this brain of being a writer, I've sat down and paid closer attention to the artists and media that I enjoy, not from the perspective of the media, but from the creator that created it, which has allowed me to go on many different paths and to learn a lot of cool things. I did one maybe not too long ago with Tatsuki Fujimoto, where I looked at a lot of his work. I looked at him as a person and everything that I can find about him because I was really entrenched in what he created. I was really inspired. Uh, I look at a lot of other of my favorite authors like George R. R. Martin and other people, etc., a lot of mangaka, and because of that, and because we're talking about Deltarune, I looked at Toby Fox, who is the creator of Undertale and Deltarune, and I learned a lot about him. I learned that he's very talented, which you don't need me to tell you that, but he created Undertale with a Kickstarter, which is, as many of you might or may not know, is like a donating website where people can ask for money in order to produce a project. I don't know if Kickstarters are specifically for games, but I know that he created one. He basically doubled what money he was asking for and created Undertale a few years later. And it became the cultural phenomenon that it is. And then many years later, after Undertale, he released Deltarune. Up till here we are today, June 24th, 2026, when Chapter 5 is just releasing. And it's got me thinking, right, about this going back to the original question, the masterpiece, right? What is a masterpiece? Now, I've actually done something specifically for this video where I've Googled some shit just to make it a talking point, but I Googled the definition of what a magnum opus really is. And if you Google it, it will tell you that it is a Latin phrase translating essentially to great work. Uh, and it's in the English language. Most celebrated, or is basically meaning the most celebrated or greatest achievement that an artist, writer, composer, scholar of their entire career, essentially their masterpiece, right? And it's kind of crazy because in this definition, it goes into a lot of different angles, right? I want to make a video eventually about the dynamic between the audience and the creator, right? Because I feel like there's a lot to say about that dynamic, Specifically going back to Game of Thrones, we can talk about the audience and the creator when it comes to actually giving content out, finishing the story. As we all know, Winds of Winter, fuck you, George R. R. Martin, has not come out in I think over many years now. I don't know the exact date, but I think it's not too long ago. I saw one of my favorite YouTubers basically post about how Winds of Winter has now taken longer to make than in between every book before it. So from a Game of Thrones all the way up to the last Game of Thrones book, all of those have come out quicker than Winds of Winter from then has it, or when it was released or supposed to drop until now. And so because of that, it starts to make you wonder, does the audience or does the creator have an obligation to the audience to finish a story? You know, some people say no, some people say yes, but this type of dynamic, that type of like you know, idea between these two, like the creator and their work, is really really interesting to me. And in relation to Deltarune or Undertale, getting back to that topic, I wanted to talk about how this idea of what a masterpiece is, what the Magnum Opus is very much in relation to this audience and creator dynamic, because you start to wonder if whether or not, you know, something can be a masterpiece because a creator decided it to be, or something can be a masterpiece because the culture deemed it so, or the audience deemed it so, you know? Um, I remember listening to a Tyler the Creator interview one time where he talked about how he knew for a fact that the song that he made with Kali Uchis, it's blanking, "See You Again," by with Kali Uchis, was going to be his most popular song, right? It was going to be the song that everybody viewed as his greatest. And I don't remember what else, but you know, he said that another song was going to be seen as his actual masterpiece, right? And I don't really know the numbers, but I think that, you know, See You Again is pretty up there in his catalog. It might be the most popular song, or at least one of them. And it's interesting how he is able to know that, you know, as a creator, as a musician, he was able to compose a song that he knew that when this thing dropped was going to be amazing. And I see it in a lot of TV shows and other things where you meet this like composer character who really knows music. They might not be the artist, but they're like, I don't know what the fuck to call them. You know, the person that's like, you know, behind the thing, they're like the DJ, they're like on their thingy. And you know, when a creator or when the character inside a show is making a song or something, they know whether or not that thing is going to be a hit. Now, of course, it's a show, but I feel like this kind of thing translates to real life, where there might be people who hear something or know something and you know it's going to be great. You just know it. You know it's going to be amazing, right? And so that's one point on the creator's side, where it's like the creator is the one that decides if whether or not this thing is going to be their greatest thing. But then you have the audience side, right? Where sometimes the creator might create something and it just so happens that that thing blows out of proportion or becomes their most famous thing without really like them expecting it to be. I argue that there's a lot of mangaka who might go down that route. They maybe make a manga and they try to do it. And of course, that takes a lot of dedication and hard work to do. But I imagine that a lot of them might make a manga where they're like, yeah, fuck it, let's see what theirs goes. And then it somehow blows up and becomes more famous than they actually thought. I'm thinking like JJK, where I'm not going to say Gege knew that his, you know, Jujutsu Kaisen was going to be a big hit as it was. But at the same time, uh or he didn't know that it was going to be as big of a hit as it was. But at the same time, I didn't think that him as a person who's making their like debut manga would drop something and realize or think that, like, you know, years later that this anime would be in the, like, you know, Guinness World Record for most famous, most popular anime. That's like ridiculous, right? And I would argue it's the same thing for like musicians who make like a one hit wonder, where they're like, they drop a song, but they don't expect it to blow out of proportion as it does and become their most famous song to the point where they can't even make other songs because of how popular that one is. Like, you're just known as that guy, the person who made that song, you know? And I think it's really interesting because then you get a lot of those times where a creator might make something but it goes out of their way. So that's a point for the audience, right? That's the point for the people listening, for the people watching. And it's like you look at that and then you start to wonder who really controls that dynamic, right? And I think, again, going back to Toby Fox, it's really interesting where he created something like Undertale, and he himself, I think, called it an 8 out of 10. Didn't think that it was perfect. But I don't think that any of you need to be gamers to know what Undertale is, or at least have heard of it. Like, it was so popular, it's to the point where side projects of the side project of the side project is getting millions and millions of views, likes, clicks, and engagement, right? It's just that popular. And although I wouldn't say Deltarune has reached the same level of success, it's it's very difficult to deny the clear cult kind of following that is behind it, you know? People truly love it. And I know that when Toby Fox made Deltarune, or from his words, that Deltarune is made to be like, you know, the one up from Undertale. Not that that's the only thing he was thinking, but Undertale was made as a test run for Deltarune, you know? It was made as something to be kind of like a stepping stone to see if he could make something greater, you know? And it goes back to that masterpiece part. What makes something a masterpiece? What makes it good? When I told you to close your eyes and think about your favorite type of media, why did you think of that one? You know? And it ties into my second point and the thing that I asked you first, which was, why was it your favorite? You see, I kind of got this idea and talking point from another video. I'll link it inside the description or comment section so you guys could go watch it. But it was a person discussing what are the 5 video game masterpieces. And I really loved it because it was a video that at first you think is just about like someone trying to like, you know, rate games. Like there's a lot of those things. I watch a YouTuber who talks about Mario and Nintendo a lot when I'm bored, and he rates all the different Mario games or aspects of Mario games, like who's the greatest boss and what's the best level, what's the hardest level, what's this and what's that. And I thought it was going to be one of those, you know, a guy talking about what he deems as the 5 greatest masterpiece games, 5 most important games. But as I started watching this video, I started realizing that this was more like a serious video essay than I fucking thought. This was not a troll. As he was starting to keep going, he created categories and then removed one from the list. And then kept removing some from the list and adding new ones. And by the time the video was done, he had multiple lists for his 5 greatest games. And he took a moment to pause and say that while he was trying to think of the video, he realized he couldn't figure out what he thought the best 5 masterpiece games were. He didn't know. And every morning he would wake up, he would add one and remove one from the list. You know, he would think that this is going to be whatever, this is going to be whatever. He started asking serious questions like, what's more important, the thing that started the genre in the beginning or the thing that perfected the genre in the end? You know, what was it that, or what was more important? What did people view higher? And started asking questions about the audience and the creator. What is like, what makes that game great? Is it that the creator sat down and made something so incredible that people couldn't deny that there was a masterpiece? Or was it that the audience felt like this thing resonated with them so much that they felt like it was a masterpiece, you know? And the culmination of the video and what I wanted to say is that it related back to feelings, you know? I have it as a quote. I didn't fucking write it down, of course. But a masterpiece, essentially, is your feeling. It's whatever you want it to be. Now, oh my God, that's the most cliche thing you ever fucking heard. But truly deep what I'm saying here, right? When I ask you to close your eyes and however many people watch this video, I imagine that maybe 2 of you, maybe 1 of you might have the same answer. But I imagine that a lot of you will have different ones, you know? Some of you may agree, but there's a reason why when you close your eyes, that one was the first one that popped up for you. And it was a reason why when you thought of it, even if you started to question, well, if this thing is my favorite, does that make it a masterpiece? I imagine that a lot of you maybe thought that, yeah, it is my favorite and it is a masterpiece at the same time, you know? And I think the reason behind that is literally because everything just comes down to feeling, you know? A masterpiece is a masterpiece not because of anything but your own feeling, whether it be from the creator and whether it be from the audience. The common trend between all of them is that one person thought this thing was going to be great, or at least put their heart and soul into it, whether it be consuming it or whether it be creating it. And then by the thing that came out of that, or the thing that came out of that was that. Even going back to the one-hit wonders, you know, I imagine that artists put their time and going boom after boom after boom after song after song after song after trash after trash after trash to finally get that banger, you know, the one that finally blows them out of proportion, you know, and makes it so that they can't be forgotten. But the time that it took to probably create that one hit wonder was the thing that made that one hit wonder. And if they decided to put that same amount of time into it, maybe they would create another. And maybe that's what separates a great artist from a good artist from a bad one, you know? It's maybe a person who knows how to put in that effort, knows how to use their talent to their own will to create that thing, you know? I recently thought about it myself a lot. I don't know if I want to talk about it in this video because it's already been 20 minutes since I've been yapping, but a masterpiece is whatever you make it to be. A masterpiece is something important to you. It is your favorite thing because it is a masterpiece, and it is a masterpiece because it is your favorite thing. And don't forget that. And don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Some things might be trash, objectively. I don't know what, maybe Ginny and Georgia or some shit. I don't fucking know. But even Ginny and Georgia on Netflix has qualities that somebody may like. I'm not going to say it's a fucking masterpiece, but I don't think anybody's calling Ginny and Georgia their favorite thing. But at the end of the day, I think that in my creative journey and in moving forward, I'm going to keep that in mind. See, I think that the problem for every creator, like the one hit wonder, like the person who's making an indie game, like the fucking, like, you know, indie movie director, everybody wants to eventually make something great, something that breaks the mold, something that brings them into the fold, something that actually gets them the business and the praise and the admiration that they've been searching for their entire lives. But sometimes they stop and they don't remember, or sometimes they forget along the way that they're not creating this thing for the sake of just creating it and for the sake of breaking the mold. They should be creating this thing to break the mold, so because of their feelings. Basically, if you're only worried about the success of the thing that you're creating, then it probably won't be successful. But if you're worried about making something that you truly love and care about, then no matter what it is, no matter what, like how popular it eventually gets, it's going to be something special and somebody out there will enjoy it. Like Deltarune. And I know that nigga will never be watching this video, but thank you, Toby Fox, and thank you for all my favorite creators for creating what you did and for making me the way that I am today. I love all of you. I appreciate all of you. More videos coming soon. I love you all, and goodbye.